So even when Cosmo, gets into the car and he says, "Man, what did you let your stretch deteriorate this way?" We haven't seen it. He has, but we haven't. It is only later that when it gets out that we see, my God, it really has been, trashed completely. So that takes care of itself. And then you're on the street. You've got gritty sort of New York 47th Street, West End lighting, and that really suggests immediately how it's going to play. So it's, as I say, this is a long way of saying that it's organic and it comes from the material itself rather than an overarching concept that we develop outside the movie and then impose on it.
I mean, you mentioned art. You said you start to look at a couple of paintings and then you get bored. There are obviously a couple of references to art in this film, the Jackson Pollock and the Mark Rothko paintings. Was that in, because I have to confess I've not read the original novel, was that something that was in there? Because you go on from that to talk about kind of capitalism and how everything can be bought, can be purchased, and that's what seems to really draw the ire of Juliette Binoche. People begin to tell Eric what they think of him rather than telling him what he would like to hear. Can you just tell us about the references to paintings that are in the film?
Yeah, well, Eric, he sees in Mark Rothko, and in particular the Rothko Chapel, which is a beautiful building built specifically to house these last paintings that Mark Rothko did, and he sees there a kind of tranquility and a peace and a sort of serenity, and he wants that. But he only knows how to buy. He doesn't know any other way to achieve that. He doesn't realize, or he can't understand that he has to generate that kind of thing from the inside. You can't just buy it. And so he wants not just the paintings, but the chapel, because the chapel is a kind of a religious thing. So when I was deciding on what the credit should be, the credit sequences, we had a wonderful credit designer, and he suggested a kind of Jackson Pollock beginning. Pollock is not mentioned in the movie, but you get the idea that Eric is an aficionado of modern American art, and therefore certainly would probably have at least one or two Pollocks. And so we show the Pollock that isn't the real one, we couldn't afford the real one, being generated, and it's all really speckly and actiony, and it's ADD, and it's kind of like Eric's mind at the beginning, very quick, very micro-timed and everything, the thing that Benno complained about that he couldn't keep up with. So that's Eric at the beginning. And then towards the end of the movie, he has achieved, possibly through death, this kind of Rothko-like serenity and so on. However, it did occur to me later, just recently actually, that both those painters, Pollock and Rothko, committed suicide. And so it's kind of perfect, really, for Eric, I think, to collect them.
A final comment from me, then we'll take some questions from the audience. Watching the film a second time, whenever I say this, it always feels like I'm trying to get people to pay to see it twice. But it's a very dense film, it's a complex film. When I watched it the first time, I saw it in Cannes actually, I enjoyed it, but it took some time. When I watched it again tonight, things drop into place. And you mentioned about the dialogue. It's almost, I know you did The Naked Lunch, but it has an element to me of Burroughs in that it's almost like a dialogue all of its own. Sometimes they're talking, and they're talking about things that you can recognise, but there's a kind of code going on. And the film feels sometimes like a code that you decipher, and it's very enjoyable to decipher. Do you enjoy the fact that the film has this kind of multiple enjoyment for people? It's not something that you just watch and go away, you go away and you think about it, and hopefully you want to pay twice.
Yeah, well, the films that always excited me the most were films that were not immediately consumable, basically. I mean, we all enjoy Hollywood films and so on, but they are designed to satisfy you immediately, like a good sugar hit. I don't want to talk about the Atkins diet or insulin response, but we could. So you eat something sweet, and you get a good hit, you get a high. And but it's over, it's finished. You consumed it. You don't need to see it again. You could, but you don't need to. But I like movies and art in general that's complex and that's provocative and that really feels like there's a lot more than you can absorb at one sitting. And not that you have to see it again, but if you do see it again, it becomes a different movie. And the stuff that they talk about it all makes really great sense. It actually is terrific, but there's no way you're going to absorb what Samantha Morton says as his chief of theory. It's very complex, talking about the future and technology and capitalism. So you let it wash over you, and what you're getting from that is that Eric understands it. It means something to him, and it's also very interesting that a capitalist sort of master should be interested in the theory of capitalism and would hire someone to coach him every day and sort of feed him interesting things about the theory of money and capitalism and so on. So you don't need to know exactly what she's talking about and understand it for it to have to work in the movie. That's my feeling. If you see the movie again, those things start to make more and more sense. And I love that. I mean, I think in a movie you try to, I want to give the audience a lot of stuff, maybe more than they can, take at once, but it's all there.
If you are going to see it again, sit here, please. Let's take some questions from the audience. It's quite hard to see. Okay, there's going to be lots. So what we'll do, we'll start at the front and we'll work back. I think we've got about 10-15 minutes. So there's a roving microphone, so if you can wait for the microphone. If we start with the lady in a stripy top.
Hi. I just want to say congratulations on a great film. I really, really enjoyed it. I just want to ask if you could tell us more about the whole Cannes experience and what it was like to have a debut there, and especially you, David, having your son debut his film there as well. And also, there's been talk of two of you working on another project, and I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that as well.
Sort of 3 questions.
Yeah.
The first question I think was about the experience of being in Cannes. Is that correct? And how they enjoyed the experience of being in Cannes. Second question, and the fact that your son Brandon had a film there, Antiviral, which I saw was very good. But also the third part of the question was about the fact that you're talking about working together again. Is there any truth in that? The third part of the question, is there any truth that you're working together again?
Cannes was incredibly exciting for me because this year it was kind of like the Cronenberg's vacation in Cannes, because my son had his first feature film there as part of the official selection, and that meant that this was the first time in the history of Cannes that there had ever been a sort of father-son or parent-child duo with official selections of this nature. That was kind of nice. And then my daughter Caitlin had somehow scored a gig with the New York Times to kind of cover all that. So she was there snapping away and living in the Carlton Hotel with us. And so it was really a kind of a family affair, and that was really sweet, really lovely. Your experience of Cannes?
No, it was amazing. I was in Cannes in 2009, and just to promote, and I felt like I was just piggybacking on the credibility of the festival, and felt a little bit like an imposter. And to have it, I can't add right now. Sorry, I don't know why.
Just do the smoker.
Yeah, but to have one very soon afterwards, much sooner than I ever thought would happen. It was amazing. Yeah. Really.
And what about the third part of the question, rumours of you're possibly working together again, is that?
Yes. Well, Rob and I had a pretty good time on the film, and I really started to feel that, you sometimes work with actors the way, for example, I work with Viggo Mortensen. I get the feeling that we're not finished, that there's a lot more to come between us. And in particular, I started to think I'd love to see Viggo and Rob in a movie together. I think they'd really be fantastic. Just knowing them both, I really think that it could be sensational. So we've been talking about what that might be. There's nothing definite yet. There's some possibilities. Nothing certainly greenlit. That takes a long time. But I'd hate to think that I would never work with Rob again. So I think we will.
Okay, let's take the lady next. If we can keep it to one.
I want to ask Robert, in the film Eric Packer's looking for the thrill, so I was wondering what's the thrill you're looking for in your professional life, in future projects, what excites you, what would you like to do?
Did everybody hear it back? Yeah?
I really like the idea of people being frightened of me.
Certainly he frightened me.
I don't quite know what that means, but I like the idea of it. But I don't know. I mean, it's so difficult to get anything which is dangerous made. And however, Cosmopolis it's almost ridiculous, the fact that it is a relatively dangerous to make movie, because it's, you know, people are like, oh, it's too much talking. I mean, it's like people are crazy about it, but I would love to try and, you know, trying to do anything which feels fresh and new. I mean, that's the only thing that interests me. I don't really, I don't like repeating myself or repeating other people, and that's kind of the only thing I'm looking for.
Okay, let's take some more questions. Let's do some towards. Let's do the man in the shirt. I know he's a big Cronenberg fan. He's got a white shirt and he's in the middle. Yeah.
Excuse me, could you turn that light up, please? It's really bright, seriously. You, thank you. There's a light on your camera that's too bright, thank you.
David, I've grown up with your films since I was a kid, watching them on VHS video, and feel vindicated when someone like yourself then ends up at Cannes, when myself and people of my age were kind of laughed at for watching your movies. And I just wonder how you feel now when you look back.
Keep it nicely.
In terms of the genre, perhaps, and I just wonder how you feel now looking back at those early films. Because to me, they still stand the test of time, and they're still as powerful as they were when I first saw them. And would you ever return back to that genre, especially when horror and fantasy films now are pretty awful, most of them?
I thank you for the kind words, and yeah,
tonight and talking to us. Congratulations on the film. Rob, I'd especially like to congratulate you on a very brave performance. We mentioned earlier on the extended prostate exam. The film has quite a few challenging scenes. I'm just wondering if there are any particularly awkward moments on set, and how you as a performer deal with those kind of situations, being naked in front of your fellow actors, and of course your lovely parents here tonight.
My parents here. Were they giving speeches or something?
An hour speech. He showed some photos of you as a baby.
What are the awkward scenes? I mean, I was very, I don't think I've been more afraid in my whole career sitting in the limo the first time for the camera test. It wasn't even a scene. I felt like I was going to throw up. I mean, I had so many ideas of how to play it that I'd completely overwhelmed myself. And literally up until the time I said the first line, I was, you know, after that point it was fine. But so I couldn't have started at a lower point. But I don't know. There's certain bits. The prostate scene, I was kind of. Because we were intending to do it like kind of completely naked at the beginning, and I remember going to David's trailer. I don't know, I haven't worked out enough.
it's hard to find the right angle.
And then I was sitting there and I was all paranoid about it, and I didn't care about the actual prostate scene at all, because then I could sit up and I could like suck my gut in. But like the thing sitting on the couch, I was worried about, and then. Emily Hampshire was saying like, no, sweet, it looks like you haven't got a belly button. And I was like, shit, that's not helpful at all. But I liked your comeback to her after when she was nervous about her one take. She does that whole monologue and it was one take, and she was terrified about it. And David told her that she was going to replace her head anyway, just cast her own body, which she totally believed for the rest of the day. But I don't know, the awkward stuff is literally like, it's just, none of it's awkward if you feel like it's going to be good afterwards. And once you get to a certain point, you just, I don't know, I think it's going to be good. So, you know, you kind of, you just trust, and then it's not awkward. I've done way more awkward stuff in my real life.
Don't forget your parents are here. We are going to have to conclude. Cosmopolis opens on June 15th. We have to say thank you to Entertainment One Films for this preview. A huge thank you to David Cronenberg and Rob Patterson.